Hope is Not a Tactic, the School Safety and Security Show. I'm your host, Joe Pangaro. You know, our show last week, where we sat and talked with Michelle Gay, I thought was a great opening for such an important topic, school safety and security. This week, I wanted to start out with some information I think every school district needs to understand. The very basics, the very start of how do you make your school safe? How do you keep it secure? Well, the very first place to start is to understand what your strengths and your weaknesses are. So how do we go about doing that? Well, I'm going to tell you, this title of this particular show is going to be The 3 Pillars of Survival. So in a violent incident, there are a couple of things that you need to do. 3 of them specifically that I'm talking about. All right? Those 3 things are important to everybody in your building to understand. And I boil it down to simple concepts because we can't remember lists of things in an emergency. Okay, so what we have is preparation, communication, and notification. Those are the 3 pillars of survival. So preparation, what does that mean exactly? Preparation means preparing your people, preparing your building, preparing your policies, and preparing your drills and practices so you're good. Communication, that means how do the people in your building let each other know that there's a problem? How do they tell each other there's an emergency? Is it a PA system? Is it an electronic notification device? Or is it something else? And then finally, notification. How does your staff call for help? How do they let the outside world know they need help to come over here? How do they tell the police, come here and help us? So that's what we're going to cover today. The 3 pillars of survival. I'm going to talk about the very first step that you need to take to understand your security profile. Now, some people think they know how safe their schools are. They have policy and procedure in place, and they think they're good. Well, I'm going to tell you, you need to consider that a little closer. So, preparation, like I said, the first thing you need to do is get a threat assessment on your building. What is a threat assessment? A threat assessment is a in-depth review of your security profile. What exactly is your security on each one of your campuses if you have different school buildings? All right, so high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, college campuses, just about any kind of a campus. You talk a medical campus, doesn't matter. Any kind of a building is the same. It's what you do with the building is different. What kind of mission goes on inside that building? So for today, we're going to talk about our schools, and we'll take a look at that. So preparation, you got to get a threat assessment, and we'll talk about that a little more in depth as we go here. All right, that means staff training. Your staff has to be properly trained in how to respond to violence. They have to know what to expect. They have to be inoculated to the fear of responding, or they're just going to freeze up when an emergency happens. All right, we want to talk about building hardening. How do you keep the bad guys and the bad girls out of your building? All right, preparation also means understanding really the number one threat in our schools comes from the students who are already inside the building. So that means understanding your internal and your external threats. Internal threats are those kids and staff who are in our buildings. Do we understand the temperature of our school? What goes on? How do the kids feel about the school? How do they feel about each other and the staff? Are there problems that go on in the school that don't get addressed appropriately? You know, that's the temperature. And then the external threat. That's the person who comes from outside and wants to attack our buildings to come inside and try and hurt us. And then we talk about electronic equipment. Now, one of the key things from my standpoint and my company, True Security Design, one of the key things we try and do is bring together those 2 elements. The electronic portion of safety and security, you know, the equipment, the hardware, the visitor management system, the cameras, all that kind of stuff, with the human component, with the people in your buildings. The 2 of those things have to work together so that your building is safe. So we're going to kind of go through that quick and see what we can find out here. All right, communication. How do we call for help? All right, how do we tell everybody in the building what's going on? How do we say there's a problem in the gym if you are in the main office? What if you're in the back of the building? How do you tell them you see something happening that we should lock down quickly? All right, who's allowed to call a lockdown in your building? It is very common in many of schools that the principal or the assistant principal are the ones who are authorized to call a lockdown. And I'm here to tell you, everyone in your building should be allowed to call a lockdown. If somebody sees danger approaching your facility, or they see something happening inside the facility that's dangerous, a student with a weapon, a student making threats, someone telling you that someone has a weapon, anyone should be able to immediately lock that building down and call for help. Okay? Notification. How do we call the outside world for help? How do you tell the police you need help? Are we expecting someone to pick up a phone and dial 911? Are we expecting someone to use a cell phone to call 911 or the local police? Do we have electronic notification systems? You know, these are very popular apps for phones and computers. They're web-based, they don't go on your servers. Everybody can open up the app, hit a button that says lockdown, and put a message in it. There's somebody in the building that has a weapon. And it goes out immediately to everyone, including the local police. And in many instances, they get that software for the police officers for free from a lot of these companies. So those are the three things we need to talk about: preparation, communication, and notification. All right, so where do you start? Where do we start with this whole process? What is the security profile of your schools? That's where the threat assessment comes in. A threat, vulnerability, and risk assessment, also known as a TVRA. You'll hear me say that a lot as we go through these episodes. The TVRA is the basis of all your security. You want to make sure that you get one done by a professional company that knows what they're doing, okay? So we'll talk about those. The threat assessment, they come in lots of different forms. What you're going to find is the free ones versus the at-cost ones, right? The ones you have to actually pay for. So some of the free ones we can get come from our local police, or maybe your state police are in your area and they provide threat assessments for your buildings. Some of them are really, really good. All right, some of the police officers are really highly trained. They really know what they're talking about. They've had a lot of experience in this. They can give you a great free TVRA. Other agencies, the officers might not be as experienced, might not have as much training. The officers might be busy, so they don't have time to come in and spend with you the time that really you need to have spent on a threat assessment to make sure your buildings are safe. And then you have the other kind of free TVRAs. These are ones that are sometimes offered by companies, manufacturers that make some of the equipment that they want to sell to you. I've read lots and lots of threat assessments, and I can tell you, many of these free ones are really a sales pitch hidden underneath telling you, oh, we're going to tell you how you're safe and tell you what you're going to do. Buy our cameras, buy our doors, buy our windows, that kind of thing. So the real caveat here is to say you get what you pay for. Right? A quality TVRA is not outrageously expensive, but you get what you pay for. So if you're going to buy something, consider if all you can afford is a free TVRA, then you take it. It is better to have an independent set of eyes take a look at your school profile, security profile, than to just be guessing or to just go by what you think is going on. So that's the thing. If you can afford it, find a quality company that has done. All right. The main premise to a TVRA, to a threat assessment, is really very simple. If someone wanted to come into your school and hurt your students and staff, how would they do it? How would they get in your school? How would they hurt your people? That's the premise. Now, a lot of threat assessments look at it from the point of view as, well, let's see what you have in place already. You have cameras and you have door locks and you have lockdown policies and all that stuff. That's all good. And we look at that kind of stuff too. But really, you should look at it from the point of view, what if you were the attacker? Why would I try and attack your facility? If I have a gripe and I want to hurt some of the kids in my class, I have to think about what's going on here security-wise. Am I going to be able to get away with it? Can I get the weapon in? Does anybody know that I'm having a problem, et cetera, et cetera? So that's where the premise really helps us. It's a scary premise, ladies and gentlemen. I don't pull punches with this stuff. This is about keeping your students and your staff safe. We have to face the realities of these things, and we have to look at them hard and cold. Because at the end of the day, if someone attacks your building, people can get hurt or killed. So we can't play around, we can't mince words, we have to be clear about what we're doing. So that's the idea of a threat assessment. Okay? What is a quality TVRA? I get that question all the time. It kind of goes along with the whole, what are you paying for? But what is a quality TVRA? Quality TVRA has to be independent. All right? When I do one in my company, and I'm not pushing you to call my company, what I'm telling you is when I do them, I'm an independent voice. I come to that district and I look at their stuff to try to find a way to find the security gaps in their school. That's what they hired me for, and that's what I come there to do. But I'm independent. I'm not there to support some door company or a lock company or a camera company. I don't care who you buy your equipment from. My job is to find your security gaps and help you close them. All right? Documenting all the findings is extremely important because you got to have a good quality report when it's done. You know, telling you need more cameras and you should have a better lighting and you should have, bulletproof glass. That's all great. But a quality TVRA report is going to give you much, much more than that. When we do them, what we put out is we look at an observation. We make an observation. We found an open door at 7 o'clock in the morning and class starts at 7:30. We found an open door. Here's our recommendation. Ensure that all doors are locked and alarmed, etc., etc. Or we might give you a suggestion. We suggest that you use limiters in your windows so they can't be open more than 3-4 inches so nobody could climb in the window. Or we might tell you, take a look at, consider adding additional swipe cards or whatever the swipe readers that you would need to get people in the building quickly. But those are the kind of the premises you need to look at. You need a suggestion, a consideration, or a recommendation of what you should do. Right? Those are the important, and that report should be detailed enough so that you can follow. It gives you a roadmap, so, if you will, a roadmap to increasing your security. All right. So what gaps are we looking for? Unauthorized entry, very important. Open doors, propping doors. We all know that's a problem. Everybody knows people prop doors and they shouldn't. But your safety drills, do you really have drills of value? Is your school still saying lockdown drill? Are you telling everyone it's a drill? And I'm going to suggest to you that you need to stop that. The reason that we say it's drill is because we don't want to scare everybody. Right? We want everybody to know it's not real, no one's really getting hurt, but we're going to do a lockdown drill. If you're doing that, all you're really doing is checking off the box that you did the drill. And when I ask people, why do you say drill? They say, because everybody would panic if we just said lockdown. So what do you think's going to happen if you ever had an incident in your school and you just said lockdown? That's right, everyone's going to panic. So we have to inoculate people to fear. We inoculate people to fear by practicing for real. The more realistic you can make your drill, even in the beginning when you start to do them, they are anxiety ridden because people are hearing this for the first time. Lockdown, is it real, is it not real? Well, in a real event, that's what they're going to hear. They have to be prepared to respond, not from the audio clue that there's danger, but they have to respond to take the steps they need to secure themselves and their students. You start that by not saying drill, okay? Staff knowledge. I come across lots of schools where the principal and the superintendents will tell me everyone's allowed to call a lockdown in our district. And then I go and I ask the teachers, are you allowed to call a lockdown? And I would tell you more than half of them will tell me, me? Well, I'm not allowed to call a lockdown. I have to call the principal. The principal calls a lockdown. So that's a gap in security. They don't know what they're supposed to do. Student knowledge. The one group we really leave out are parents and students. We don't really tell them a lot about what's going on here. Our students, when I talk to them and I say, what do you think about your lockdown drills? Now the younger grade kids, they also, it's good to keep us safe. When I talk to the older kids, in the middle school and the high school, where the danger is from the students, I say, what do you think about your lockdown drills? They say, they're a joke. They tell us it's a lockdown drill, so everybody knows, everybody's fooling around, kids are goofy. Now I know not every school is that, and a lot of people, their knee-jerk reaction is say, not my kids at my school take it serious. And they probably do. But a lot of the kids don't, for the same reason that the adults don't respond properly. When you say it's a drill, they know it's not real. They keep doing what they're doing, they put away their papers, they don't take it as seriously as they should. Everyone should take it seriously. So a threat assessment is going to uncover all of these type of things and much, much more. As we go forward, one of our next episodes, we're going to continue with the threat assessment and where it's going to be. We're also going to interview a school security director, a really great guy that I know who is an expert, and we're going to find out what his concerns are as a security expert in a school. What is he finding? What trends are coming up? We have a lot to cover here. School safety is an ever-evolving process, and together, all of us are going to make our school safer. So thanks for joining me this week. We'll see you next week here on Hope is Not a Tactic on the DisruptEdTV.com network, where safety is everybody's job.